All right. All praise to the Most High Yahweh and to His Son, my brother, Amashiach Yahweh Shai. Peace and blessings to my brothers and sisters from the Israelite tribes. All right. In this video, we are going to get into an interesting topic. Um, we are at the point of no return. So we are getting into why DNA haplogroups. So what you're looking at is somebody um, form setup of Y-DNA, and so in general, you tend to have like scientific, professional charting and grafting going on, and then you have some amateur work for some odd reason for some type of possible propaganda tool. Nevertheless, you have people that research this stuff to properly uh, tell you what things are and who these people are and what you're looking at. So I'm pretty sure somebody have like made this content for a forum that they was a part of a chat group, and they made it this way for a purpose. And in the process of making it, they left out two groups of people, and we'll get to that information eventually. But right now, we are just dealing with the overall who and what these markers and groups stand for. So I'm going to show you the chart and then the map at the bottom, and let's see how much we can zoom in. Okay, so I'm going to go over the haplogroups, and then on off to the side. Uh-oh. Off to the side, we have defining mutations, and the defining mutations right here are linked to other representation of the haplogroup. So you have a direct link from the haplogroup, the um, ancestor, to the direct descendants. So they get into the defined mutation, and so this vary from the defining mutation to the site result or the site testing. So there's a site map, and a lot of these markers tend to deal with also the site map of the location of the YDNA research facilities that do all the protein counts and the research on um, your samples that you do when you do your testing, or in general when they do massive amount of testing, but your personal test will be done by like a company. But when they do the massive testing, these are the markers that they go by as well. So they tend to um, say these are the defining mutation to the haplogroups. So um, often you won't probably see like, for example, the E1B1A haplogroup right here. This group is the Shemitic Israelite group of people. So, due to the fact that many African Americans are getting into understanding Y-DNA and other forms of DNA, due to that becoming a trend, they often change the designation or the group of what you're looking for and the E1B1A, they relabel or redesignate it as E-M2, and then sometimes they change it from E-E2 to E-V38, and there's other um, descendants and branches and defining mutations that they could go off of from that point. So they really get into the business of relabeling or redesignating um, a haplogroup often. So we're gonna get into some of that. So real quick, we go back to the letters and the boxes. So A00, A0, A1A, A1B1, and B. Those are your Hermetic groups of people. Um, both of these groups obviously have mutation factors within the branches. And when I say mutation factors, that's um, another word to say the representation of a close relative branch being, aged and processed to a different level of the grouping. And within these groups, you have branches within all these subclades and everything. So A through B will be your Hermetic group, your Hamites. E1A, E1B1A, E1B1B, E2, D, C1A, C1A2, C1B, C2. These are your Shemitic groups of people. We already know that the E1B1A is your Shemitic Israelite group. The Shemitic Ishmaelites will be your E1A, your Shemitic Ishmaelites. So these will be your Moors. So that would be the representation of your Moors, your Fulani, some of your Hausa grouping of people. So that would be your Shemitic Ishmaelites. Uh, so then you have E1B1B, your Shemitic Edomites. This is dealing with your Horn of Africa and then your North African region of people groups, the Habesha, the Somalis, the Eritreans, the Berbers, and then you move into Europe, into Greece region, and into the Albanian region. You have um, mostly a pale complexion group of the Edomites. So we'll get into that information. And E2 would be your Shemitic Midianites, your Shemitic Midianites. D would be your Shemitic Ammonites. The C group would be your Shemitic Moabites. So your C would be dealing with your Aboriginal Australian people. The D would be dealing with your Shemitic Ammonite people. This would be your Jawa people. So the Sinhalese people, those people in the Pacific along the coastline of Central Asia near India, those people would be your Shemitic Ammonite people. So all these people from A, from the A group to the missing letter on this chart of F, the Shemitic Elamite people, from A to F, those people, all these people are dark complexion people. This would be the perfect representation of the Zondervan definition of when it's talking about Ham and then the Negroes. And if two of your children is already this complexion type, then Japhetic people, Japhet, have to be the same coloration. So Japhet is the same coloration with a twist. So once again, the Shemitic people are the people from the C group to F. F is not on here. Um, the person left F off, and I don't know the reason, but F doesn't redesignate. Um, we'll get into um, what we call like a theory, but it's not really a theory, but we'll get into it shortly. So the G1 to T to R and Q, all these groups in between from those points, all those groups, these are the Japhetic groups of people. These are your Japhites. So the interesting thing about the Japhetic people grouping is they reverse the order that they laid the group out in. So the pale complexion groups are normally the grouping of people that goes first versus the darker groups. So your hue complexion start to change at the point of J, and after J there's K. So yeah, J and K, K being a dark complexion group, and then the group just varies from that point on with um, light complexion back to dark complexion. So with that understanding of the information, you have a mutation in the Elo or the Eli traits of the process of chromosomes, and with that being the case, you tend to have the ability of different subclades or among these haplogroups or these haplogroups. Then with Japhet, having the ability to create different complexion groups of people among several of these groups. So as you noted, I mentioned K, and K is not on this chart, but K is a close representative of MS and T. So even though K is not on here, often when you look into the charting of the haplogroups in a different region, they also uh, put together T and M and S from time to time with K. So K is missing, and K would be your dark complexion people of Solomon Island in Oceania, the groups of people with the blonde hair, and they tend to have this blonde color hair due to a interesting mutation and attribute factor, and the hair coloring most of the time tend to last as as a youth, and then after the youth period, you end up your hair tend to change color. So that's the whole content of a dominant trait within a dark complexion group of people. So you have recessive features for a short period of time, and then the features goes from recessive to a dominant trait. So the understanding of that information is the there was a chemical process, um, a melanin based chemical reaction that started the process, and then the process got stopped, and then from that point on, the hair colors start to change. And the same understanding is with the eye color. So right here at the bottom, we're looking at the map, and we are getting into some interesting um, information. So Australia, the YDNA haplogroup for Australia will be C. So it'll be your all these C groupings of people. So we scroll back up. So as you can see, it's C1 and C2. So the most interesting thing is, let's see, the color. Okay, you see the color. So that color also tend to match with the Americas. So the interesting thing is about the Shemitic Moabites. These are people that are the Aboriginal Australian people. These people moved from several regions because, like, we understand in scripture that the cradle of civilization was in the Levant region. So these Shemitic Moabite people moved from that region into Asia and eventually into Australia. So they have um, an interesting history about their movement and about their ability to relocate and to sell around the seas. So you can find them in Australia and also in the Americas. But due to the movement of the Japhetic groups of people, their population was like uh, overcome by the different groups of the Japhetic Native American people. So technically, nobody is native to America. So so we're gonna get into um, the different Japhetic groups. So right now we are talking about the Shemitic Moabite. So there's nobody native to America, and the interesting thing about the Shemitic Moabites is they have a interesting mutation count or subclade within their grouping. So um, while this map um, connects with the oranging of the Americas and not with Australia, or let me change that. They put, for some odd reason, they put that orange, the same orange color of the H and the LT and the C in this region of Siberia or Russia, and then back into the regions of um, Western Asia, Western and Central Asia. Yes, you have some remnant of that in that region, but a majority of that grouping of people are in Australia. And the proof of that understanding is there's mutation, there's a mutated branch of Aboriginal Australian people in the Americas. The marker is C3A. So you have C3A, and sometimes you could probably get like a C4 in the Americas. So you have this big jump from C1 and C2 to a mutation in the Americas. But the crazy thing about that is there's another branch of grouping of Aboriginals that have a C5 mutation within Australia. So this means that most likely many of those people during the process or period that they was being overrun by Japhetic people, many of these people went back to Australia either before the Japhetic people or during, but there's a mutation within Australia that jumps. So you have C1 to C2, and then it jumps into the C3s and 4, possibly in the Americas, and then back in Australia you have C5. So that's the fascinating thing about DNA when you start to understand these mutation points and these other relatives within that branch that creates a subclade. So obviously they have the color scheme wrong for the Shemitic Moabites. They put the gray. Is there any more gray on here? Nope, that's the only one. So M and M and S and T, these are actually the representation of this K of this K. So the K grouping would be your Papua New Guinea, your Solomon Island, your Oceania people, all those islands. Those would be your um, Japhetic Caucasian people that used to live in the Greek islands. So due to the different wars and empires in that region, that group moved from the Greek Isles to the Pacific eventually. So you do have that remnant of the T. So you have T, T that has that color, and T tends to linger along with some of the um, parts of M as well. So they linger in some parts of Asia on the mainland, but other than that, you have the the K1 and the K2 grouping of people in the Pacific. So real quick, I want to share some pictures dealing with those people. So we have the Oceania people. As you can see, the coloration of the blonde, and then after a while, it changes into a darker color. Those are the Oceania or Papua New Guinea people. And we go to the other groups of people, and I don't have it, or maybe I do. Maybe I do. Okay, your Australian Aboriginal people. So these are your Shemitic Moabites, your Shemitic Moabite people. And I know many of us been taught by Israelite camps about Chinese people being Shemitic Moabites and Japanese people being um, Shemitic Ammonite people, but that's not the case technically. Even though when you look on this chart, you do have the understanding of once again, D would be your Ammonite people. So you do have Ammon, not just in the oceans near India, but they do have a pocket of people that are actually in Japan. So you have Ammon in Japan, and you do tend to have them in some parts of mainland um, Mid East Asia, like in some parts of China. But other than that, those are just remnants. So you have like heavy amounts because these people in that island region along India, they populate those islands heavily, and then you have one island with the Sinhalese people or the what's the Adam Adamawa people. Um, they they live on the island, so nobody can even come close to the island because they'll attack them with unconventional weapons. So those would be your Shemitic Ammonite people, and then you look at the remaining of the grouping, and that would most likely be the O groups. The O and sometimes the N. So the interesting thing about the Japhetic groups of people, they become the imitation version of um, the native groupings of different groups of people. Once they take over, they have um, adaptable attributes that tend to help them to fit into those regions, and they tend to um, start to look like they are native people of the region when they are not. So that's the other interesting thing about Japhet. And so in that grouping, in this grouping of G to T to R to Q, all these groups of people have the ability to have the mutation, the whole concept of creating different skin complexion. So my question to Israelites that are into the understanding of the hybrid, my question is, are these the groups of people that you're talking about that are the hybrids of the fallen angels? So I would like to know in the comment section which haplogroup or which grouping of people that we are talking about when y'all are saying that there's a hybrid DNA cell or process among the DNA. Which DNA is that involving the process in which haplogroup? So please put that in the comment section. So other than that, let's see, the hybrid. Um, So the G, the H, the I would be your Scandinavian grouping of people. The um, the G would be your Caucasus region grouping, like the Georgia and the Black Sea area. The H would be your Japhetic group that's imitating the Shemitic Elamite group, the F. So you have H and India. Um, the J groups, those are the Near East groups of people. Um, let's see, what else? Um, R1A, R1B, R1 or 2 and Q. All these are interesting groups of people. So these are your groupings of people that could have dark complexion and pale complexion groups of people. So when you understand those groupings of people, especially the R group, then you'll understand the E1B1B group, how Edom became a pale grouping of people within a dark haplogroup. So real quick, we go to the bottom real quick. So the R group is a representation of Europe, mostly Europe, not so much of the northern part of Africa. You can find them there. You can find R in Africa. Yes, you can. You can find them as a dark complexion group as well as a pale complexion group in Africa. Because remember, J is the point to where the complexion type in the Japhetic groups to start to change the color. So you have the a tan complexion, like not a ruddy, not a fair, but you can see um, the hue content among their complexion type. So you'll have that, and then you have a possible grouping of of different R groups. So it's not just R1B and R1A. So you have like these R's that are in Central Africa and in South Africa, and these are your dark complexion um, Japhetic people. So when you get into a lot of this information, you start to find out. Wait a minute, you mean there's also a dark group of Caucasian people? Yes, and so you have that, and the same groups are the R. So when it comes to commercial DNA testing, they tend to accept the CY chromosome and the Q. Those two are the only groupings of people that they would most likely associate as Arawak or Native American people. The R group, yes, this is a Native American group, but the reason why they don't associate that group as Native American because they have like a heavy population in Europe, and many of these people that are dealing with that marker, these are your black Native American people. Even though the Q or the copper tone brown complexion group and the C group or C3A are these dark Australian Aboriginal groups, and nobody are native or is a native to America. You just have these people coming in. Well, the thing is, they are trying to rewrite history and cover up information with the R group. So most likely, the R group of people that are um, so-called Native Americans in the eastern coastline and in different parts of the Caribbean, these will be your Viking group. How you like that for history? So they would be your original Viking people that moved into the Americas, and then the Johnny that came too late to the party would be your I group, your I-1 and your I-2. But the problem is these are still in the same Javetic line of people. So that's the other interesting thing about that group. And let's see what else is there. Oh yeah, and another picture. So this is just a picture that I like to use because this is the other reference point to the information of like if I do like a comment dealing with DNA on a YouTube channel towards a count video, m- most of the time the count will either delete my video or reply and then delete not my video, but they will delete my comment. So that's the reason why I have this channel, is to make sure that my thoughts and certain understanding of things don't go um, unheard or unseen. So so I make my comment based off of DNA information, and sometimes it just a very smart answer, and they tend to go, well, Israel is scattered. They are in many nations and many countries among many people. And I'm like, yes, I know. That's what I'm referencing to. I agree with you on that. So when it comes to DNA and finding out that information, you could easily see it and understand it. So all this is just better at helping you to visualize these things and helping your spirit to better bear witness with other groups and understand certain things. So um, we have these pictures and these charts that people uh, that a person put together about a people group or ethnic group, and within the ethnic group you have a breakdown of haplogroups, and you have a percentage of a group being a majority of a haplogroup, and then the next percentage is another haplogroup. So you tend to have different groups of people among um, a classified grouping of people. So this is the whole understanding of the scattering of our people among other people groups. So we look at the Zulu warrior. So you see the blue box. The blue box is representing for this part of the picture E1B1A. Then the next one would be your E2. That's representing another portion of the grouping. That would be your Shemitic Midianite people. The B group is another part. That would be your Hamitic group of people. Then we move into the Pygmy hunters. The B is a block. The next big portion of the group is the E1B1A. grouping of people, and you can see the rest how they process the rest. So I understand in the comment section how people are gonna put in the comment section these people are not Israelites. These are Hamitic people. These are other groups of people, and I'm okay with that. My point is that uh, when Israelites tend to go, we are scattered. I'm agreeing with you, and I'm showing you that information and DNA of the scattering of the different places you would be. Period. So this is your representation. So the interesting thing is like this end piece when you get to the Haza. So the Haza group is a massive grouping of people in Africa, and it's crazy how Nigeria is like the home of these big demographic groups of people. You have the Yoruba, you have the Igbo, and then you have the Fulani and Haza people. So these are big groups of people in that region. And so you have this Haza group. The Haza group is also um, the um, uh, the shared portion grouping of the Fulani people. So most likely this picture is a representation of a Ishmaelite. Um, so this would be a Fulani person. And as you notice, even though the picture is of a Fulani person, you have R1B. Remember, R1B is that European marker. European and some parts of the eastern coast of America. So you have that to put together as an understanding. So you're saying that these people are, because these people are dark people. Now you're saying that dark people are gonna let Caucasian people among them in their cultural uh, setups that they practice. And notice, so you have a R1B, you have a B, a, and then you have other colors that they don't mark. Well, the other colors that they don't mark is actually um, E1A. So the Hausa is like a super group, but it's composing of other groups of people. So of course the Hausa would probably put this R1B and the B and the A like that when it consists of other groupings of people. You have Ishmaelites, so that's what that picture is of a Fulani person. And right off the bat, I like this picture because this is just straight up dealing with Torak or another grouping of Berber people. This is your Shemitic Edomite. This would be your brown and ruddy complexion skin type. That's Edom. This would be your Berber, not your Arab people or person. So they tend to get the Berber people mixed with the classification of Arab people. So and notice right after the E1B1B, you have a E1B1A, and then you have a R1A maybe, or maybe a R1B. So this is the understanding that we have to have when we are talking about phenotype and other groupings of people and DNA. So yes, we have people scattered, and this is the proof with DNA. So we have to understand that. on my other channel, with the other information that I do, um, I did information on something related to Edom, and a brother commented that he was a traditional Berber, but he did his DNA test, and his DNA test came out to be E1B1A and a branch. And I was like, wow, well, you are a Israelite for sure. And it was like one of those things that, yes, we could go ahead and get into um, classifying groups of people, but once again, this is just bits and part of the things that we could use and um, track information better to better help our people understand who they are and who our enemies are. So that what DNA and this new information is for. So yes, we have people everywhere. So let's see, we have that. Let's see the map. This is for another video that I'm doing, but I thought I saved something. I thought I had something saved in here, but I don't. So we'll move into this map. So this is a better map to show what I was talking about. So you see the K's. So you have the M and the K and the C2 and the island region, Papua New Guinea. You have MS, and then you have C4. You can barely see it. C4. Yeah, C2. Let's see. Uh, you have some KT action. Notice how they put those, the ones that I was talking about, like the K and the T, they put them together, and they do that because these are what they would call basal, ALO, or ALI groups of people. All these people are the same grouping of people. It's just that in order to um, understand this, their protein, you just have to give them so many haplogroups, or else the branches will be so long and forever. So yes, DNA, they could have, the scientists, they could have made notation and kept them within certain ranges of each other with the notation. Just add this mutation, this descendant is a son, this descendant is a close brother, and they could do that, but I don't think they understand that technique, because when you get into that technique is coming with the understanding of scriptures and stuff. So that's the best way I could explain that to you. So, like I was saying, so you have C3 down here in the coastline. Yeah, Q3. So we are looking at the Americas. These are the movement of people. And as you can see, R1. So these are your native groups of people. C3B, Q3. So your big R1 grouping of people. and then you move back across the same grouping of people, R1A, and then we get into the information dealing with our people and the Hamitic people, and right there, as you can see. So the interesting thing, so this right here is a H. So that would be dealing with your Japhetic people that are trying to imitate Elam. And notice the groupings that are around them. You have R1A and you have R2. Notice that. Okay, so now we go into Africa and look, you have R1A and R1B at the top. You have L right there. So we go into Africa. Even if this is a H right here, what is this doing in the middle of Africa? This is actually our R1B. So this is in that Niger and Chad region where you find uh, these dark complexion Caucasian people. And then you have Madagascar. That's an interesting place. Madagascar. Um, let's see. And that's about it with this. You know, I just wanted to share a little bit about that with y'all. So, what else? Did that. So, what I have right here, this is just dealing with the collection of information that I'm gonna get into about um, Edom, the daughter of Edom. So these are the Edomites that I am talking about. So you have famous Edomites like Ilhan Omar, Iman, famous model. You have the president of Ethiopia, and then we get into that's for a whole different thing altogether. That information. This is the crazy Edomite dance that they do. That's the name of the dance. It goes in various stages, you know. And these are Habesha women that I was looking up. So while the interesting thing about this was when I was like looking up more information about Habesha, I never knew that Tiffany Haddish father was a um, Eritrean. I never knew that until I saw the picture of her in this Ethiopian style garment. So the Habesha, Eritrean people, the Somali people, all those groups of people are the same groups of Edomite people. But I never knew that Tiffany Haddish was Eritrean. Her father was Eritrean. So she wore the dress to honor her father, and I was a little bit shocked because you know her behavior and everything, but at the same time, um, another person that's Eritrean is Nipsey. So these are your representation of Edom. But the other interesting thing is Tiffany and Common, they was approached by Israelite camp, and the interesting thing was the camp was telling them about being Israelites, and so we have to be careful with the people that we are talking to about being Israel. So it's not just the whole concept of the Arawak people that you're trying to put into an inheritance that is not theirs, but is other groups of people as well. So, with that being said, all praise to the Most High Yahweh and to His Son, my brother, Amashiach Yahushai. Peace and blessings to my brothers and sisters from the Israelite tribes. Thank y'all.